Yep, I covered that earlier about sort of priming with more fat just before you go into a dry fast. Get yourself into much higher ketosis before you go into a dry fast, and then you're basically producing enough. Because if you go to a dry fast, you need about 3 days to get into ketosis. So if you're not in ketosis and you're not basically producing ketones, you're going to be basically in trouble because you're not breaking down as sufficient fat for water production, internal water production, and you can create dehydration internally. That's why a dry fast, you can actually end up losing even more weight doing a dry fast than a wet fast, because what you're doing is you're forcing the body to produce more water from the fats by releasing more free fatty acids for water production, and then it uncouples mitochondria and radiates that away as heat, the excess, because it can't use it, and you end up basically uncoupling your mitochondria to some extent, without actually having to put polyphenol crap like Grundy tells us, use these polyphenols, forget about all the side effects that it causes, guys, just use that and uncouple your mitochondria. I'll tell you one thing, there's a lot of things that uncouple, even some like toxins and some things that will kill you like cyanide, they can uncouple as well, but you know what, they'll kill you. So you don't want too much uncoupling either. So the body, when you give it the right sort of stuff, fat and all that, it will do it to a certain degree, and it also will dump out of your urine a certain amount of ketones if they're not required. So it will actually do a certain level of uncoupling, but not too much, and the excess ketones will just dump them out of your urine. It's a great system, isn't it? So yeah. So when you do a dry fast, I tend to do a dry fast. I always make sure I've pushed up my ketone levels, and then I switch. So I lower my protein, I magnify my my fats and my long chain fats in particular, and I also have dairy fats like liquid fats. Why? Especially from goats. Goats are medium chain triglycerides that convert, and a lot of short chain fatty acids there that also convert into ketones much easier. So as a consequence, having goat milk or goat sort of dairy or stuff like that, I'm going to shift the ketone sort of direction, and the body will go, okay, we're shifting. And so when I do a dry fast, then the body is able to release free fatty acids very rapidly and produce enough metabolic water for me not to dehydrate. That's the trick. So most people that don't get themselves fat adapted or are not in good ketosis, when they do dry fast, they struggle. Like Bart, because he was drinking a whole lot of ciders and all that. And remember when he had back problems and all that, because he was dehydrating. It was that was what it was caused. And that was because you need 3 days to basically get back into ketosis once you've done cheats. And by then, he was already in pain because he had dehydrated. So that's what happened. So yeah, you got to be very careful with dry fasts, the way you do it. I do not recommend them to people that don't know what they're doing. So I'm not recommending it to you. I do it myself, but I know what I'm doing and how to prepare for it. I've given you how I prepare for it. You may have to get ketone strips or ketone, blood things to know exactly whether you are that, because I know when I'm in ketosis. I know from my own mental state and, physically how I respond. I know that. I don't need to basically jab my, to see exactly where my ketones are and all that. But you may not, because you may not have the experience and so may not know exactly how it's affecting you. So it's really important that you do get something to check if you're going to go down that path, or maybe even chat to Bart, because he's actually done it now. He's more aware of how to do it properly. And so he learned from his own, and not only that, not only did he learn from his own mistake, but we learned. I learned, Lukey learned, and many others from his mistake. And so, if you need somebody to coach you, because I don't do any coaching or stuff like that, here's an option for you in that regard.